Most people in fitness know how to train, very few know how to build a business. Marc Rodriguez saw great trainers with real talent, but no roadmap for sales, marketing, leadership, or ownership. So, after retiring from the Marines, he put his leadership skills to work and built the Manifest Fitness Institute. It's a national model focused on turning fitness professionals into business operators, not just employees. I'm Bryon Morrison. Let's get to the leaders list.
Everything is happening through these screens.
How are we getting the most out of that person?
I want to see this thing grow long term.
Amazing story. You have such a unique perspective on that.
Schedule a 2-week vacation.
I applaud those models.
Undervalue.
Secure your digital footprint as well.
Why were they even put in place in the first place?
Only the most adaptable survive. Let's get to the leaders list. Hey, Marc Rodriguez. Thank you so much for being on the leaders list.
You got it. Thank you for having me, Bryon. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is great, man. We're going to talk about Manifest Fitness Institute. We're going to talk about your other businesses. You're a true Renaissance portfolio leader, and also just an incredibly inspiring person. I think you've got a great story. So we just wanted to have you on here so that we can understand that, learn from you, and then just get an idea of like what you're dealing with right now in business. So why don't we kick off with you telling us first of all what Manifest is, and then we'll get more into your journey.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you again for having me, Bryon. Yes, I'm Marc Rodriguez. I CEO and owner and founder of Manifest Fitness Institute. So Manifest Fitness Institute is an educational institution for health and fitness. What we do is we bring a conglomerate of resources and tools and educational partners into one facility, a hub for personal trainers, coaches, athletic trainers to be able to get their health and fitness education, certifications, continuing education, support. But the biggest thing about Manifest Fitness Institute that differentiates ourselves from anybody else is that we offer the business development side. So we're really big on the individuals that come in at our space being on the independent contractor side, more of entrepreneurship, business ownership. What we do is we teach everything from business formations to taxes to lead generation, lead nurture, sales, fulfillment, retention, marketing, business systems. We teach it all. So the entrepreneur that comes into our space walks away not only with the 50% of health and fitness education, but then the other 50% with business development and how to actually market it for themselves to be able to be a good business. So that's what Manifest Fitness Institute is.
It's so great because, I think you go to LA Fitness, you go to some, big gym, and you see the trainers in there and you realize like they're making a penny.
Yes.
And they're kind of on their own by comparison. And so what you're really doing is building community. Mm-hmm. But also, I mean, like you're giving these guys like their MBAs and, and at the same time. And so it's really impressive for you to be a consultant to those fitness experts and then give them a great environment to be able to work in. But tell us a little bit about your journey and what led you to doing this. Like, why not just, pop up a location and just keep putting them all over the place like, every other gym?
No, that's a great question. 2017, I retired from the United States Marine Corps. I did 21 years of active service. And when I retired, I was one of those veterans who was lost, didn't know what was going to be next. So I led right into, I was always into physical fitness. I was a drill instructor in the Marine Corps, a martial arts instructor. So I did anything physical, I did it. So going into the civilian world, quotation marks, was like, okay, well, what am I good at? I had no idea. From 17 to 38, Marine Corps. I had no idea what I was good at and what was like an actual, trait. So I said, well, fitness. So I got my personal training certification from a schoolhouse in San Diego, a personal training institution, actually a school. And that's relevant for the next part of the story. And as I was in Temecula, California, and kind of figuring things out, my wife was still active duty. So she's also retired currently. She did 22 years. She retired in 2019. But she was still active duty at the time. And I said, well, maybe I'll just hang out, just be a trainer and kind of work out of my garage and that type of stuff. And I had a buddy of mine who introduced me to Self-Made Training Facility, which was a facility for independent contractor personal trainers. They lease the space and they run their business. And I was like, I never heard of that, but wait a minute, I got to pay them. I don't have any clients. I don't know any of that stuff. And they're like, oh, you'll figure it out. So I went over there, went to the facility, and I was introduced to the CEO and founder at the time, Miguel Aguilar, who taught me, and put me in there and actually showed me how this whole thing worked. And so I started my business shortly after I retired, and as a trainer, didn't know anything about business, didn't know anything about anything, was charging $30 a session, just making for 2 times a week. So I was making like $240 per client. And I say that because it's just like I was making pennies, for per client. And I just didn't know. And I started seeing a lot of successful trainers. And I was like, how are all these people making money? How are they having livelihoods? And this is all they do. And of course, I started to gain perspective from everybody. A lot of them a lot younger than me, by the way, at the time. And so I was just like, how do I get information? And that's what I did. And they taught me the way. So as this went on, I actually went back to that same school and I was doing guest speaking spots to speak to current students to say, hey, this is what I did with my certification, right? So as I was doing that, I started to see the students were really engaged and they really liked, the way I was. I was also a educational instructor in the Marine Corps as well. So I know how to do platform instruction. So I was like, well, you know what? This might be something I actually like to do. So I asked if I could be an instructor there. So they said, yeah, we take you in a heartbeat. So I said, okay, cool. So I became an instructor there and I was instructing National Academy of Sports Medicine, the certified personal trainer course. So I was teaching that. And I started to get a little bit of pushback from the management because I was doing alternative teaching strategies. I was really engaged with the students. The students were loving it. And it wasn't death by PowerPoint. So
right.
they
were like, just stick with the book. Just stick with the book, Mark.
Exactly. And I also was bringing in a perspective of I am an entrepreneur. I've been running my business. And this is now 2019. So I've been running my business for almost 2 years. And, I've learned a lot. So I'm giving them that perspective. And they didn't appreciate that because they were linked to Crunch Fitness. And so the students, when they would graduate, they kind of funnel into Crunch Fitness.
Sure.
So me giving them all these tools about being an independent contractor was messing that up. So essentially they let me go. And when they let me go on the drive from San Diego up to Temecula, it was about an hour drive. I came up with Manifest. And I basically said that I'm going to be the Lowe's to their Home Depot.
I love it.
That's how Manifest came about. But the way that I did it, this is I know that I'm trying to keep the story short.
No, keep going.
But I drove up to Self-Made Training Facility headquarters that day, and I walked up to the vice president at the time, and I said, I want to be your director of education, and I'll work for free. And he's like, what's the catch? I said, just have the CEO put me on social media and say I'm the director of education. I'll do the rest. And he is like, okay, let's figure this out. So we went up, talked to him, and told him the same thing. And he said, what's the catch as well? And I said, just put me on social media. He said, why? And I said, because you have 45,000 followers at the time. I have none. So I need to gain some followers. So he was like, done. So we did it. And I worked for free. I was not an employee, but I was still running my personal training business. And so I was going around to all the franchises. At the time, there was like 15. And I was teaching the trainers about their educational resources and certifications and things. And plus I brought in a lot of partnerships to include NASM to the facility. And I started to make a name for myself. That was through 19, 20, and in 21. And in the mid 21, the CEO said, hey, you're doing too much and we haven't paid you. And I said, oh, I know, I'm good. And they was like, no, we're going to bring you on board. So I quit my personal training business and I became the director of education full-time with corporate.
Gotcha.
Shortly thereafter, vice president resigned and I became the facility manager for headquarters and the vice president. So I was the vice president, facility manager, and director of education all at the same time. there was one particular position that had eluded me because of, obviously I hadn't purchased a franchise yet, but I wanted to be a franchise owner because I was mentoring franchise owners, but I didn't actually was a franchise owner. I was just a facility manager. So I dropped everything and I moved to Dallas, Texas in August of 2022. And I took over the franchise here in Dallas. And within 10 months became the number one franchise out of the company and out of 20 locations. And and it doesn't stop there.
And the rest, as they say, is history.
2024, the CEO and founder passed away. May he rest in peace. And when he passed away, every franchise owner looked at me and said, "You're the only person that could be the CEO of this company." So in January of 2025, I took over as the CEO of the company. And I was the CEO for 10 months, and I resigned due to some internal conflicts between me and the trust managers, which is just a difference of values. And then I exited my franchise in December, all amicable and everything. In January of this year, Manifest Fitness Institute is all mine, and I'm the CEO of this company. And that's the story moves on.
Yeah. Now it starts.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's an incredible story. Thank you for your service and your wife's service, by the way. And what an amazing foundation. You just think about how you built on everything from your time working, in the military, being able to build on that. And then ironically, the best thing that ever could have happened is somebody saying, "Yeah, we're going to let you go," because it just kept pushing you towards the next thing. But that's a lot on you, right? I mean, that's mindset, resiliency. So incredible. And I tell people this all the time. I taught at SMU, and I tell the students, I'm like, look, bet on yourself. Go talk to someone about, let me just do some work. Let me just prove what I'm capable of. Yeah. And so working for free, I had one person actually reach out to me and they said, "Hey, I know your company is 100% remote. I'd like to clean virtual toilets." I was like, best line I ever heard. I was like, "You're right."
That is good. I like that.
It was great. So, all right. So now, you've gone from, we understand how you got the expertise. We understand how you proved it, executed it with top franchise. You worked within that. What is the vision for Manifest, and what are you creating now?
So the vision for Manifest, do you want the actual business goal, or do you want what the vision for the impact? Because
I think they are two totally different things. What I'd be interested in first and foremost is, what is your vision for what Manifest can be? So that would be impact. And then how are you going about doing it?
So the vision, the business goal, actually, and the vision for Manifest Fitness Institute would be one in every state by the end of 2028, with 6 international locations, and then building the business valuation to be upward to $100 million. So that's where I'm at, right? That's what my goal is right now. I do want to sell the company at some point,
Sure.
Because that's the ultimate goal. I do not plan to, go into the sunset with Manifest Fitness Institute as, the operational, control. But I want to build something of impact. So right now, what I see, especially in the health and fitness industry, there is no legitimate school that is consistent across the board, and that is found in every state, or that is that type of leverage. And also international locations. We don't have that. Everything's very sporadic. So I want to build something that's consistent, and that is an educational hub that rolls off of people's mouths when they think health and fitness. So they say, "Hey, you want to get certified? Go to Manifest Fitness Institute. You want to become a business owner, independent contractor? Go to Manifest Fitness Institute," because they do that. They will legitimately get you where you need to be. And that's the impact I want. Here's what a lot of people don't understand, because there's a twofold to this for trainers. For fitness professionals, you have one, which is the value you provide the consumer. So we are, as health coaches and fitness coaches, we are helping longevity of life, which I feel is so valuable. to be able to take somebody and help them through injury, through weight loss, through, be able to get them healthy so they can live. The thing is that most fitness professionals are not getting compensated for the value they're providing. So we provide at Manifest Fitness Institute a merger between the two. We're going to teach you how to give high value, but then also how to promote yourself for high compensation for that value you provide. And I think that's so important that across the board that in a lot of arenas, they are not teaching that or stressing that. And so you see a lot of athletic coaches, a lot of trainers, a lot of fitness professionals that get burnt out. That's the first thing. The second thing is the quality of work. Because when you're not getting paid, do you really think you're going to provide that much quality of work? You think you're going to provide that much value? No, you're going to do the bare minimum because you're like, oh, I'm only making minimum wage. I'm only making this. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So
it feels more like a hobby at that stage, right?
Absolutely. So what I come to find is when trainers are getting and coaches are getting compensated a high value, they take more pride in the value that they're providing. So in all essence, if you think about that, what it does for the community and what it does for the majority is it has more impact because you have more people that actually care. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. And what's really great about Manifest Fitness is because that's what we're pushing.
Yeah. Yeah. And so as you're going through this process, you've seen the industry from the inside out. You've obviously found a niche and a need. You also have, so you just talked about one new location in every state and, 6 internationally. I know you well enough. What necessitates one in each state? Why do you take that strategy versus, I'm going to do a regional strategy?
The reason being is because number one is reach. When you have one in every state in every, let's say a major city in each state, right? You can legitimately help the health and wellness of the country, right? And everybody still has an avenue to go. Now, think about that. If I have one in Alabama, one in Minnesota, one in California, one in Texas, one in Montana, beautiful, by the way, I love Montana, right? You can literally, I love Montana. I'm a fan of Montana. But when you go and you place this there, two things. Number one, you help the community as a whole, the people to be able to get healthy and well, but you also give an avenue or a course of action or some sort of career roadmap for all the trainers that are in that area, right? These trainers are everywhere. So now you've given them an avenue to be like, hey, I could do this too. Yeah. And so it helps everybody.
So that's what I was expecting is the trainer connection, right? So have you laid this out for how many trainers you're going to impact with that plan?
No, I'll be honest, transparent. No, I haven't mapped out exactly how many trainers, but here's the thing. So one thing about the school is that it has a private training facility. So it's an educational institution with a private training facility. So what happens is that people come to school, they'll come into a classroom, they'll sit down, they'll go through an 8-week course just for the basic certification, and the business development. And then they have the opportunity to take all that knowledge that they've learned over the 8 weeks and go right into the private training facility and start building their business. The thing is when they graduate, they walk out with an LLC. They walk out understanding exactly what their business is supposed to be marketing to. They understand social media. They understand digital marketing. They understand business systems like CRMs. So they're literally walking out already armed with information. Here's one more key component. The people that are teaching in Manifest Fitness Institute have already ran businesses. They've already been personal trainers that have run their businesses. So you're talking to instructors that have so much experience. And that can happen in every state because there's plenty of people that are in every state that have been doing independent contracting that can now teach, mentor, mold the future. But then also these trainers are now being able to go into a facility that they can run their businesses out of. And the facility doesn't need to be anything more than 15,000 square feet, by the way. That's like the biggest that anyone's going to be. You start going larger than that, you're going to lose touch and there's too much wasted space. So we aim for 5,000 to 15,000 square feet of space for you to be able to do all of this that we're talking about.
Does this essentially, Mark, look like a franchise business for you eventually? Yeah. So that's your next thing, but you're not at that stage right now, right?
I will not be at that stage until the end of this year, looking at rolling into fourth quarter, starting franchising. So,
love it.
So right now, I mean, yes, of course, coming from the franchise system with Self-Made Training Facility, I'm very well aware and very well informed and very well educated on all the ups and downs of franchising. So some people would say I'm a glutton for punishment. But what I also learned about franchising is that when your systems and your SOPs are solid, and you have that, really, really dialed in, then the only thing you're going to have is some emotional battles, which, you can always deal with more than if it's structural organizational battles. That's a whole different story.
Yeah. Spoken like a true operator.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, it's been fun.
Yeah. So if you were going to talk about the growth stage of, there's a lot of moving parts there too, and you've got several other businesses. So just give us a quick understanding of your portfolio and what you've got going.
So Jeff Fernster, who owns Everbowl, I saw him on stage one year speaking at a conference, and he spoke about vertical integration. And he spoke about how he had a supply chain system. So he got warehouses, and he also had a delivery problem. So he got delivery trucks. And then he had a build out problem where it was taking them forever to build out the Everbowls. So the actual buildings. So he got a construction company, and now they do their build outs in 5 to 14 days. So, for operational purposes, everything was just smooth, but he owned each company that merged into Everbowl. I thought it was fascinating. So I'm going, just like I was as a trainer, how can I do that for me?
Yep.
And so what I came up with is Go High Level is a CRM marketing software. I white labeled that. And so I have my company Rose and Connect, which is all CRM, email marketing, digital marketing, and a business system essentially, because you can link payment processing, you can link, your calendar to it. So that I framed that for business ownership. So for trainers to be able to utilize, which a lot of them would never utilize. So they all have access. If you work in the Manifest Fitness Institute, you have access to that for free. So you can run all your backend systems and do all your marketing and put all your social media onto there. And, so we teach that. So that's one company, Rose and Connect. Manifest Dallas and Manifest Fitness Institute is two same things, but two different things, meaning that Manifest Fitness Institute is educational. It's all the education stuff. Manifest Dallas is the actual private training facility. So any city that pops up will have the same. You'll have the Manifest Fitness Institute as a classroom, but the Manifest, whatever city it is, would be the actual private training facility side. So I have both of these, obviously. And then I have Exec Wellness. So one of the things that I started seeing was corporations don't have good health and wellness benefits when it comes to for their employees. My wife was getting $20 a month to go to Planet Fitness. And I was like, what's that do? And I said, what if I was to build something where corporations can have their employees utilize our strongest instructors and trainers to be able to provide them, personal training, health and wellness benefits, which automatically ups productivity, lowers medical insurance costs, and it's actually something more valuable than just giving them a gym membership to Planet Fitness.
Yeah.
So that's what Exec Wellness is. So we also do lunch and learns. We do seminars, workshops for companies for personal and professional development. So that's what I build with Exec Wellness. That's
awesome. It's the difference between checking a box, right? And saying you provide a benefit and then actually benefiting someone.
Yeah. So those are my companies, but I do have The overarching is Justrod Enterprises. And so Justrod Enterprises is obviously what, owns everything, but that's what I do. My speaking engagements. In the future, I will be doing leadership and business consulting. Right now, I used to do business masterminds. I had a podcast as well. So I had a lot of different things, which I stopped doing to grow Manifest. So I actually put all those things on hold.
So let's talk a little bit about your leaders list, because as I'm thinking about all of the things you have going on, several of people who are listening to this probably just eyes rolled back in their head and went, how are you getting it all done?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. How do you manage your priorities? How do you manage your list? Tell us a little bit about what that list looks like and what's on it and how you're dealing with it.
It's the art of delegation. So when you delegate to those that are hungry, like I was hungry, and Miguel gave me an opportunity, by being the director of education for free. I have done the same, where I've given opportunities to people who are hungry, who want to grow. My facility manager right now, Cesar Coronado, when I first got here to Dallas, I asked every trainer in the facility who wants to be an owner of a gym at some point. And a few people rose their hand. Then I said, who wants to own a business model like this one? And a few people kept their hands up. And I said, who wants to own this particular one? And Cesar was the only one that had his hand up. And I said, good, you're my facility manager now. And so that's how he got the job. And then what ended up happening is, as time has gone on, I have mentored him and molded him into becoming the owner of this facility. So when it's time for me to exit and move on, he is the person that I'll be giving this gym to or selling it to.
You know what I love about that, Marc, is that you're doing such a great job of, what you need, but you're bringing others along with you in that path. And I think a lot of people talk about that and want to do that, but I mean, your coaching tree when you're done with this is going to be pretty powerful. So
it's just giving people the opportunity, and they're young. There's a lot of young, hungry people that are out there. I think they're getting lost in this world, and this isn't, a rant or nothing, but it's just they're getting lost in the world of somebody owes me something. That's been the common mantra as of this new generation is you owe me. And it's like, no, nobody owes you anything. You need to work for it. And so seeing these young 27, 30, 32, year olds that I have on my team, they are hungry and they're willing to work. And they're like, we've got your back through and through. And I provide them with visibility to things that they never would imagine that they would see. For instance, Health and Fitness Association is hosting a trade show here in San Diego on March 16th to the 18th. And I have 9 of my team members that are coming with me. And, if it wasn't for me, they would never have gone to this. But it's an international trade show for health and fitness. But it's not just a trade show. It's the people that I'm introducing them to. I'm introducing them to presidents, vice presidents, CEOs, operators that people that are been in the industry for 30, 40 years. This is who I'm introducing these 27 to 32-year-old young, up and comers to, where now they can make their footprint in the industry. And then as they grow, they have so much time to be able to grow in this company or even in the range of what their particular, department is, that they become just so much better, and so much enlightened. And if they veer off and they do something else, then fine, but they're educated and they have knowledge. And they'll always remember that if it wasn't for this guy right here, you may have never learned that particular, aspect. So I believe in legacy. Like, the fact that you can leave a legacy, legacy is worth way more than money.
Got it. And so as you're thinking about the things that are on your list right now, how are you balancing, are you methodical thinking about, I get that you're delegating a ton, but how are you prioritizing? I'm going to go spend time with these guys in San Diego and I'm going to introduce them to people versus I'm going to go scout new locations for my next gym versus I'm setting up the next class versus I've got to identify how to make sure that my class is actually working versus, the next SOP. Because you got a lot.
I honestly, with that, that's a military attribute right there, because military don't want to hear you're complaining. Get it done. FITFO. Figure it the F out. That's the way I've always been. And so, yes, we have a lot of things. I have, for those that don't have these softwares, I have Asana, for instance. And Asana is a great project management, be able to put, all of our things on there, take a look at it. We know what the updates are at, and I require my team to do all of that, but I'm able to see the visibility on that. I utilize Motion for myself. So to be able to have all my tasks, on my, and my COO is actually, she's in charge of my schedule. So she does literally she's kind of a / executive assistant, but she's also the COO of the company. But she, literally is like, hey, check your schedule, make sure you don't forget about this. I have team meetings every Monday. So we just had our team meetings yesterday, where I speak to every team member. Hey, what's the top 3 priorities for this week? And, they tell me, hey, these priorities need to get done this week, boss. Cool. Where are we at with it? And then what does the future look like? What is some things that we just got to keep on our radar? Well, hey, we need to make sure. And when you have that, so boil it all down, structure. Yeah. So the way that you get things done is being structured. If you just don't have any structure and you're trying to get all of this done, it's going to be chaos.
Yeah. So you have an operating system. And that is, you're right. Those rhythms, the consistency, understanding what's operational and consistent versus what are, and that's in the business. That's the stuff that makes the business work. How do you start picking up on the business? Mm-hmm. How do you start managing those initiatives? Is that also through delegation, and you keep farming those out?
Well, I know that I told you fourth quarter I would like to start franchising, right? So my big thing is that I am not selling anybody anything until I feel every hole has been plugged, every discrepancy has been fixed, that deals with SOPs, deals with structure. I want to be able to hand over a franchise model that is proven that it works, number one, which my location obviously does. But number two, that I have touched every single wicket of a complaint or a problem that could potentially exist and how the solution is. If I frame that and it's already there, like, hey, if this happens, here's your solution. If this happens, here's your solution. And it's already, and the onboarding is crisp for the franchise. Now, here's the deal. It's not going to be perfect because things are going to happen as time goes on, and you have to make adjustments as time goes on. But the better solid your systems are and your structure is from the jump, the easier it is for people to start, buying into the franchise model. And I think that was, something that I've seen not only in the franchise I was in before, but I've studied franchises as well. And, there's a great book, by the way, if I could offer an example, a book, Profitable Partnerships. It is one of the best books when it comes to franchising, either as a franchisor or a franchisee. You can read it and living it real life. It's like, man, this book is really on point. It tells you exactly the do's and don'ts, the goods, the bads, that are very realistic, by the way. So
love it. Mm-hmm. So you're building out the infrastructure, like that's the transformational side of the business that I tend to find. Like if you've obviously got a good leadership team, you've put the team in place, you're building that out. But now you're in that transformation stage where you're establishing those foundational elements to be able to get to franchise. So that makes a ton of sense.
That's where we'll scale, because I feel that once we have everything, all boxes checked and everything, verified and confirmed that it's it works. At that point, if you want a gym and you want to create impact, we're going to give you the best product.
And are you going to franchise the training as well? Or is it just going to be the gyms and then you do the training everywhere?
No. So the educational institution is part of, so it comes together.
I see.
Yeah. So the educational institution is the forefront. So anybody that wants to get involved with this franchise needs to have either an interest to where people, or you have because not everybody's a teacher. I get it. Not everybody's a platform instructor, but you have to understand that this is the primary mission of the business. Education is the primary mission.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to want that.
Not own a gym because it's cool. Like, we're not doing that. So the difference between our trainers, I have 51 trainers in my facility right now. And when you walk in these doors, all 51 trainers, regardless of whether they're beginners or they're advanced, you can tell that there's a difference when it comes to education. They take their craft very seriously. So you're looking at trainers, young and old, that actually understand, biomechanics. They understand, health. They understand wellness. They understand exercise. They understand foundational, movements and things of that nature. And so you see a product that's just different. And so as an owner, you have to believe in that.
Yeah.
You have to believe in the massive. You're just a person that just likes working out and throwing weights around. This ain't for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell the story. So we were talking about how you've helped, one of your trainers. You gave a great example of somebody who had worked in one of the big box places, then came to you and then gave you their objective for the year. Just tell everybody that story if you don't mind.
Which one? Because I've had a few.
Well, you've only done that a few thousand times. So you were talking about how an individual said, I'd really like to make $100,000 this year. And
you're talking about today. You're talking about the individual.
Yeah. This literally just happened. We were just talking about it. It's amazing.
Yeah. That's why I was like, which one? Okay, so individual came to me. He's a trainer in my facility, and he's been with me now for a year and 5 months. When he came to me in October of 2024, and that year he made about $33,000 or $34,000 for the year. Now, he had moved from Austin to Dallas, and when he came here, and by the way, I forgot to mention, he's a boxing coach. So he's not only a personal trainer, but he's a boxing coach. That's his main thing. He's a boxer. So boxing already is kind of a low ticket item when it comes to consumers paying for it. That, most people think that, I'll just pay, 10, 15 bucks for it, which absolutely not, because boxing and in a capacity with educated trainer is the price point should be way up there because it's very valuable.
Very unique. Yeah.
Absolutely. So he came here, hesitated a little bit, and then he hit the ground running. Within 3 months, he was making about $6,000 to $8,000 a month, which was more than he had ever made in Austin. But for the year of 2025, he made $81,000. So from 34,000, I think I said, to 81,000 is what between years. So he was super excited. He said, I want to make 100,000. That's this year. I want to hit that 100K marker. And I went through the numbers with him. I asked him, how many clients do you have? What price point are you actually charging? How many hours do you actually want to be in the facility? Not what you are, but what you want to be in the facility so you have time for you and your family. What's the difference between private one-on-one, semi-private, group walk-ins? Let's look at all those price points. Let's see what your numbers are at. Well, he's like, if I can make, $10K a month, that would be great. And through the numbers and through everything, I showed him how he can make 20K a month. And he was like, I never could imagine I can make 20K a month. And I said, well, the numbers don't lie. This isn't Marc's opinion. It's the numbers. So now, as you're looking at your business, that you could potentially make 20K a month doing exactly what you're doing and also trading time for money, because you could actually limit the amount of clients you have, up your price points on your sessions, and now you have more time with your family.
Yeah.
And
so I asked you, was that about teaching him unit metrics and understanding the cost per acquisition and all of that, or was that actually showing him marketing? And you had a really succinct answer, which was just yes.
Yes.
So again, you're giving these guys, that's an MBA.
Because the one thing that I was teaching them was I said, okay, now that we know your numbers, what the hell are you offering? Mm-hmm. So tell me what you offer. And he was like, well, I offer boxing. And I said, no. Deep. We need to go deeper. What are you offering? And his answers were fundamentals, strength and conditioning, nutrition, skill building, offense and defensive tactics, and general fitness as well. And I told him, I said, so you're missing one. And he goes, what's that? I said, recovery. how do people recover after they're done with sessions with you? And he's like, yeah, I got to write that down. I said, so now that you know what you're offering, you can now put your price point to it, which is much better than just boxing, right?
Right.
And then on top of that, leads to what? And he's like, I know. I said, no, say it. He's like, marketing. I was like, exactly. Because you got to talk on camera. You got to market yourself, and if you can market all these things that you're offering, then people are going to want to buy.
Yeah.
And he's like,
yeah, I love it.
So and he walked out of here with just a clear vision of what's next, which was beautiful. And that's what I love. I love when they walk out of here and they're like, and by the way, just for the viewers' knowledge, I take nothing from my trainers' customers. The customers pay the trainer what the trainer tells the customer to pay. The trainer pays me one flat rate every month to rent the space. That's where we're at.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. When I first talked to you about this, I just love the vertical integration of I'm finding the individuals, I'm training the individuals, I'm giving them the facility to be successful in, and then I'm giving them a vision for what can be next for them. And so for the people who are listening right now, if we're out building businesses and we have a good service model where we're already successful at that, what I think is really interesting is how you've looked at the perimeters of your business and the parameters of your business, and you've seen beyond the obvious money-making opportunity. And one of those big things is in community and how you've built community around that. I think that would be great to get a feel for. How do you think that should impact our leaders list? How should we be thinking differently about how we're running our businesses based on what you've learned in that process?
Culture is everything. Culture is everything. I don't care what business you're in. If your culture sucks, people don't want to stay. If your culture sucks, people will not be loyal to the mission and what needs to be done. Your culture is everything. So I would tell any business owner, any industry, if your culture sucks in your community or in your corporation, you're not going to be able to be successful. And you may be successful monetarily, but your company will always have a bad name. And sooner or later, it will come back to bite you in the rear end. That's business culture. So
sure.
how
do you judge that though, Marc? So this is the hard part, right? It's
twofold, because there's one, the internal, and one, the external. So the internal is your employees, the people that work for you, your staff. That's one opinion of what the culture looks like.
Sure.
And then external is your consumers and what they think the corporation or the company or the business looks like. You have to be mindful of both. So, for me, for instance, today was Katie Manning's birthday. Okay. She's a brand new trainer. She just started. What's today? So she started the 1st of February as a new trainer here. She's 25 years old. Okay. Running her own business. And today was her birthday. So I put in the group chat with all the trainers and all the people, hey, let's wish Katie Manning a happy birthday today. Everybody, wish her a happy birthday. And then I put it on social media as well. Right? Hey, today's Katie Manning's birthday. And a flood of happy birthday messages came over the chat from all the trainers that never met her. They never met her yet because she's brand new. And they put happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. That small thing builds culture. And it builds a camaraderie amongst everybody in the community because they feel included. And it's just something that small. It doesn't take much. Just a simple happy birthday. That makes people go, I like this company. They didn't do this in my last company, and so people become loyal to that. Here's another, these t-shirts. These are our new Manifest Fitness Institute t-shirts. Okay. It's got this and then this on the back. I spent about $1,500 to make sure every single person in this facility got a free shirt. And I could have made them pay for it because they're independent contractors. They're not my employees. So I could have just put it on the shelf, marked it up 50% and made some cash off of it. But no, I gave them a free t-shirt. And guess what? I put it on social media as well So they were I handed it to them, and there's a video of me handing it to them and them giving me a hug and saying thank you. Now, it wasn't fake, it was all real, but it was filmed. And when I showcased that on social media, guess what trainers that are out there are looking at and going, oh, that's pretty cool. You know, the owner just gives out free shirts and these guys are giving him a hug, so he must be cool. So that builds culture. So everybody's like, this place is awesome. Everybody gets along, everybody's laughing, they're happy. That's what builds culture.
Yeah.
And so now you go, I'm sorry to interrupt. Now you go to the consumer side. So if you're not concerned about your Google reviews or your Yelp reviews, you're missing a big part of that as well. Because on my Google reviews right now, go on there. I am totally comfortable. 126 reviews as of right now. 4.9 because I've got two stars and two 2 stars, and that's it. So out of 126 reviews, they're all 5 stars except for those 2. And guess what the number one thing people say about my facility is? This is the cleanest gym I've ever been to.
Yeah. I was going to say professionalism or clean. It's going to be one of those two.
Yep. And so that's how you build culture.
Yeah. So what's interesting about that is those are the little things that you do, and the consistent things are the SOPs and how you operate. Those all add to culture. Mm-hmm. And, you know, as you start to get larger, the hard part is, how do I get the feedback loop? How do I make sure that I'm winning in that scenario? But there are tools available to us, right? I mean, just like you just said, Yelp reviews for you and your business, that's your feedback loop to match. You know, what I put out there, is it coming back the same way? Is it perceived the same way? So that's great stuff. That's great stuff. I'm curious, Marc, I mean, we've kept you longer than we should have, but I'm curious, is there anything that we should have covered that we haven't, that, you know, as we just started talking about, for the business owners that are listening to this, when they're done listening, what's the takeaway that they should go do immediately? Like, what's the first thing you would do?
Have a clear understanding of where you want your business to go. So I have a clear understanding of where my
vision first.
Vision first. And you need to write it down. Don't just have it in your head. Write it down. I don't care if you whiteboard it, put it on a piece of paper, or type it out, but you need to write an actual business plan of what you want to do. And people kind of skip that step. And I think that that's a very important step, to be able to take all the thoughts and ideas and just put it on paper or whiteboard. I particularly like whiteboards. It's better visual representation for me, because I can do brainstorming, I can do mind mapping with it, and I'm able to just data dump everything off my head and see exactly what I want to do. And then I'm able to sit back and look at it and reflect on, you know what? Yeah, this is where I'm going. So I would tell every business owner to know what you want to do first, and then do your research and development and what you're going to do. So instead of you just putting all these plans out there, understand the market, understand your industry, understand what revenue you could potentially have projected, but understand all the hardships that are put out there already by doing your research. You got to know all the things before you, and I mean all the things by, you've done enough research to where you can get in your car and press the gas and you know where you're going. But what will happen is, if you don't do the research, you're going to get in your car and you're just going to look around. That's the best analogy.
Navel gazing.
Yeah, that's the best analogy I can get it. So,
I love it.
So I think that that's very important. If I could leave anything with leaders, because I love the word leaders, it's one of my favorite words, and it's what I have actually figured out what I'm really good at in this world is leadership. And I will tell you, because I was lost as a veteran. I had no idea what I was actually good at. Like, what are you good at? Well, leadership is it. And I figured that out. If I could say anything about leadership, is you lead from the front and you lead by example. So don't expect somebody to do something that you're not willing to do yourself, or that you haven't done yourself. And lead from the front. Show people that you still, are capable of, doing the things in the business that are you requiring of other people to do. And you may not be the perfect, they may actually be better because people are well skilled, AI, for instance, right? People are way skilled at AI, but I understand AI. I can speak about AI. I may not be able to code AI, but I can speak on it. I think that having a basic knowledge of everything that all your people are doing and showing that is so important to leadership.
I love it, Marc. There is no question that you are going to manifest the success that you want. And I'm going to have you back on when we open the next location and what you learned in that process. But this has been fantastic. And I just want to thank you for being on the leaders list.
And I'm humbled and honored. Thank you, Bryon. I really appreciate it as well. And looking forward to the future and all the things. So thank you again.